formatted what I like to call like just this like naughty list of like authors and pastors, thinkers. It's just this naughty list. Like you can't read from them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Of course he the king, boy. He the king of the naughty list. You know, it's like you're just gonna melt if you read a different tradition, you know, Christian faith, and you know, and me not being on like Middle East or just continental like, you know, continental Africa, like I have to continually remind myself that like there are Christian traditions that are at least 1,000 years older than mine. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. So like have a little humility, dog. Like maybe they figured out some things. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and maybe we will go the way of every other era of the church, where like we see through a glass dimly. There are things that God revealed to us that are good for our culture and our time, and there are things that we can learn from people in front of us and or people behind us, and a couple hundred years from now we're gonna look up and be like, what were we thinking? You know? Like, it's easy to look back and be like, oh my God, can you believe the church actually said? Can you believe society actually believed? You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's hard to see that in our own sort of, you know, you ask a like a fish about, if you could ask a fish, like, hey, what do you think of like the deep waters? Like, you ask a tropical fish, what do you think of like cold, like deep waters? They're probably gonna be like, what's water? Right? Because it's just this is the space you're in. It's just the world. What do you mean, waters? Like, and it's like, well, no, you're in an ocean. Like, you don't. You mean to tell me there's something outside? No, we're in. What are you talking about? Like, you know what I'm saying? So like, how foolish that is. Like, you have like let's have the humility to be like, okay, that's us too. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're in a limited space. You know what I mean? And there are things that like I have to accept that like I'm just not gonna know. You know, and probably not understand, but that doesn't give me an excuse or reason to not like sort of bear witness and stand under the things that I can know. You feel me? So now that's the type of stuff I'd be thinking about. Just like being willing to like take doubt, take questions, and like if I'm driving on a road, you know, this road of doubt, like nah, press the gas pedal, like lean in. You feel me? Like, don't be afraid of this. Like, it's not. I don't believe that God is in any way intimidated or nervous about our doubt. You know what I'm saying? Yes. And that's something we did. You know what I'm saying? And I think that like how I'm wrestling or how I'm dealing with that is like is landing at the fact that like, yo, like that's just some stuff I'm just not gonna know. You know? And that for me, that's me pressing the gas. It's just like I'm just not gonna know that. It's a good question. So I didn't come from, even when our family became Christians, we didn't come from a very conservative, like what you would imagine America Christianity to be. We didn't come from that. Like, so I wasn't really a part of like what we would call like the Bible Belt. It's like sort of the southern event. The person that would vote for Trump. You know what I'm saying? Like that Christianity. I didn't come from that. You understand what I'm saying? So like we weren't patriotic and like Jesus in the flag. You know, I just didn't come from that. So for me, that was not. It was not a tough transition to and you know. Politics was always involved in our faith, you know. Justice and civil rights was always involved in our faith. That wasn't a transition. Some of the more transitions for me was like learning how to sort of take serious heavier theological thoughts, like because I didn't necessarily come from that to where it's like you need to really start like have some book learning. So that was one transition for me. And that definitely felt like a sort of a deep gulp from like a fresh like wellspring, you know what I mean, at one point in my life where I was like, I actually did need that because I understood sort of culture and history and politics and stuff like that. That was like, that's like my native tongue. Like, I mean, like I said about my father, like that's what I grew up on. So that stuff was like easy for me. And it was easy for me to see the scriptures talking about it, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, it's like, it was almost on some like, I don't know how you don't see that. You feel me? What really rocked me was getting into sort of the more academy kind of Christianity, starting to tour more, you know, going into other sort of areas of America that were traditionally Christian, and then realizing that I know the rest of y'all didn't think like this. And that kind of like, was like, what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I don't know how familiar you are with my work, but like that's, so that's where the Precious Puritans thing came from. To where I was like, because it was at a moment where I was just like, because that's, I was like, wait, how come y'all don't, you guys know that? Wait, you don't know that about Puritans? Because it's like, I watched this, it was at a conference, I watched this whole session where 5 speakers just talked about the rich theology of the Puritans, and I'm like, none of y'all. I mean, it's cool, I didn't know all those things that you're saying, but there's one thing I do know about them that none of y'all are mentioning. And I'm like, I don't understand, how come y'all don't know this? And then just so that was like, that was a turn for me. So, but I still felt like this is something that I still need to bring into my Christian life. You know what I mean? Because these are still, there's some of my sisters and brothers in the faith, like, you know what I'm saying? But it wasn't until a couple years after that when we started having all these like sort of murders by the hands of cops that like really made me be like, wait a minute, I don't know if we're actually in the same faith. You understand what I'm saying? So that's when I really started being like, what's happening right now? And yeah, I mean, it was definitely a journey. Like, there was a moment where I was like, I was looking up like Egyptian bishops and like Coptic Christianity. I was like, I'm out. Whatever this is, I'm out. Maybe the Ethiopians figured it out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know enough to know that Jesus is Lord. You know what I'm saying? But whatever this is, I feel like nothing on this menu is serving me. You understand what I'm saying? Because part of me was like, I can't go back to like, you know, my Uncle Billy Ray's church. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like in some senses I know too much. But on the other hand, I had to go back and go, well, maybe they were onto something in other areas. And I had to start going, that's what I meant when we started before, like, I had to question my constructs. Like, I dismissed so much of sort of this rich kind of like actual faith and practice that came from being a slave, you know what I'm saying? And having to be like, look, dude, like, I opened this book, you told me, hey, look, you should submit because this book says this. My people opened the book and went, oh, wait a minute, Moses. Oh, wait. You're going to freak. Hold up. You understand what I'm saying? So, like, having that sort of, like, lived, this is not just academy. Like, no. When I read the term deliverer, this isn't philosophical. You're not being delivered from your bills. Like, no, fool, you need to manage your money better. Like, that's... just like maybe don't get another credit card. You feel me? Like, you know, I mean, we're talking like actual, literal deliverance. You know what I'm saying? So when you talking to somebody like that, I had to go back and be like, dang, actually, man, I need to legit like repent to like my dead ancestors. You know what I'm saying? In a sense, because I had so much horrible, like insulting things to say about them. Somehow, like I read a couple books, I know more than this 80, 90-year-old woman. You know what I mean? Like just. What are you talking about, bro? You know what I'm saying? So I had to like go back to that, and then just again come to the conclusion that I said earlier, where I'm like, you know what, dude, this is just a moment in history, and it sort of flattens the chaos and the like, and the just like urgent, oh my god, we're all gonna die. It's like, well, yeah, but you know, it's just a moment, an era in. Again, since the ascension, where I mean, like you, like again, like and that's another thing, like how I'm dealing with it is what same thing I'm talking about with like Peter, like accepting that like this ain't new. Like Peter had the same moment I'm having. You know what I'm saying? Like, wait, what do we do with this?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Like them sitting around being like, well, okay, what we do with all these widows?
Yeah.
Yo, you need to like think about the office of a deacon was invented for justice, for social justice. Somebody need to feed these people. So God created a role in the church to make sure they got fed. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right? So it's like that's like so that was a moment, you know what I'm saying, that they had to go, oh, okay. And it's like and then I had to get the reality of like, yo, like every couple hundred years, somebody stands up and goes, you know what guys, I got it. This is what we're supposed to be doing, right? And then most of us go, heretic, burn him, right? And then like a generation later, we're like, actually,
He was on to something.
might have been on to something, right? And then the opposite's true. You have somebody that's an amazing communicator and is like gorgeous and just stands up and he's like, no, I think it's sits like this. He's like pants on, you know what I'm saying? He's like a home like beer brewer. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm like, well, evangelicalism is a white man's religion, right? But I mean, just a simple cursory, like freshman level actual study would show it wasn't white till 400 years later. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like it wasn't white till Constantine. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because for the first half a century, Europe was throwing Christians to lions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Right?
Yeah.
They was feeding them for entertainment. Right? So all of your first thinkers, not a one of them was white. Just name a biblical author that's white. Anybody that wrote any of those books white? Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's like, just a logical. Well, I'm like, where did it take place historically? Egypt, Ethiopia, Israel, Palestine, Persia. Like I'm like, where the white people? You know, I'm saying like there was like you have to remember there were Christian communities in Mongolia before Rome. Mongolia, like you know what I'm saying? So that's usually my answer. I'm like, well, I would say that. I'm like, well, that's like you. I mean, that's just not responsible history. Like you're just not being responsible with your history. It's not, you know what I'm saying? So like now, having said that, like everything else that brown people invented, it has often been co-opted. You understand what I'm saying? And changed into something that it wasn't meant to be, right? But you can't call that it. That's like saying hip hop, like trap music, is like a white man's music because white guys do it, so that's why it's white music. No, it's not. It's black music. You know what I'm saying? But you're welcome in. Like, hey, white people, I'm glad the gospel made it to Rome. Like, praise the Lord. You know what I'm saying? You know, so I think that for me, that's the answer. Is like, well, just I mean, the text proves it. You know what I'm saying? And I think it went the way that, if we're gonna be honest, it went the way that almost again, like everything we make goes. You feel me? Why would this think this is any different? You know what I'm saying? And then again, like going back to the pictures or the histories and stuff, and I'm like, I don't like what the paintings you're looking at. I mean, that's just Renaissance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's not Christianity, that's Renaissance. You know what I'm saying? So that would be my answer.